I am back to talk to you about some of those more daily kind of reads that I do. I thought that some of you might enjoy some of these books that I dip in and out in on a daily basis, and you'll see what I mean. Like the first one up, this one is called Life is Meals. It's a food lover's book of days. It's by James and Kay Salter. If you're an NPR follower, that probably sounds familiar to you. That's familiar to you. They are NPR people that we often hear from about cooking. And the way that this book is set up, you can see, like it'll have a month, talk to you a little bit, and then each day there's a reading, like such. That's a pretty long one. That goes 2 pages. Today we are on April 19th. Let's see what we look like today. I've gone through this a lot of years. I just leave it on my table so that I can read it. So you can see I've already been there. But this is April 19th. It's a shorter reading. So you can kind of tell how that works. But it's a day book, so you can dip in and out of it. I definitely don't see it every day, but then I'll pick up and read a couple of days at a time. There are some recipes in there. Most of it is more food information, food news, food stories. It has to do with James and Kay Salter stories. Like they will tell you a lot of their personal stories because they've been writing about food for a lot of years jointly. But then it'll also talk to you about the history of a particular kind of food like salt or coffee or something like that. I really enjoy it. I just think it's beautiful writing. I like the history of it. That will talk to you about people in the food world. So I enjoy that one. And then like I said, you also do get some recipes in there. There's a recipe, I think, is that for a house dressing, some famous restaurants, that sort of thing. So I really enjoy that. I dip in and out of that one. I love vintage things. This is the Betty Crocker Cooking Calendar book, a year-round guide to meal planning with recipes and menus. And let's see, let me get to where we're supposed to be here. Here we go. So this is for this week. You can see how beautiful it is. It's just handsomely illustrated. It's a calendar cookbook. So you do get recipes on the left-hand side, and then it was probably meant to be like a planner for, I don't know, 1970 or something. But on the other side, you see the days, and then each day has some kind of food history there. So for the 19th, we have 1892, C.E. Doria drove the first practical automobile in Springfield, Massachusetts. So not always food related, but some kind of history. I'm trying to see if there is a year. Copyright 1962 by General Mills Incorporated. But I love the illustrations, are just so pretty in this book. So again, always on my side table, and I dip in and out of it and look at what is a seasonal dish. And then it also has some of these that I'm like, does anybody ever actually still make food that looks like this anymore? But I love them. I love the pictures. I do have an extensive cookbook collection, not necessarily because I am a cook, but it's one of those, I like to read them. I like to look at them. And this one is one that stays on my side table. Another beautiful book that is more of a day book is this, A Year in Poetry. A treasure of classic and modern verses for every date on the calendar. And if we go again to April 19th, you can see I dip in and out of this all the time. There's April 19th. It is Richard Wilbur Patriots Day, Wesley, Massachusetts. So you usually do get some kind of historical information that goes with it too. But there's a poem. And then a lot of times it'll have this little thing down at the bottom here so that you can also see. In the days when John Kelly was the local hero, the Boston Marathon took place on April 19th, and not as today, on the most convenient Monday. So I enjoy this book. It's a poem a day. I know a lot of these things, these day books, have probably fallen out of popularity because people get they sign up for email newsletters. So you get the word of the day or the poem of the day or the quote of the day or the sonnet of the day, and it all gets delivered to your inbox. And I enjoy that, but of course I am a book person, so I just really enjoy the beauty of how some of these books are made. And I like seeing the book stack on my side table and being able to just walk over, sit down, pick up, and read something that's going to take me a few minutes when I have a few minutes to read. So I really enjoy those day books they stay on my side table here that you can kind of see. I talked to you earlier about like my devotional books, and then I always have a couple of book stacks on there too. And then 2 other books that I wanted to mention that are more like seasonal books instead of day books, and I've read these multiple times, but Barbara Kingsolver's Animal Vegetable Miracle, and then Michael Perry's Truck, a Love Story. Again, Michael Perry is an NPR person. He writes books that are nonfiction, memoir-ish, but not really even memoir. It's really hard to describe the kinds of books that this guy writes, but I would call them their memoir, but then they're usually based on something in particular. So Truck, a Love Story is based on this truck, an International Forester, I believe it's called, International Harvester, maybe. Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. But it's a pickup truck that he's working on. The whole story is built around this truck, but again, it is very stream of consciousness. He talks to you about his life. He lives in a small town up north. It's been a while since I've read this one. I'm trying to remember exactly where he's at. Wisconsin, returns to the deer hunting swamps of northern Wisconsin. And that is definitely how it reads. He gardens. He talks to you about gardening. He's working on this truck. He talks to you about working on his truck. He's single at the time, so he's talking to you about his single life, and you meet some of the people that he meets. And it's just a lovely story. I enjoy dipping in and out of it, and I do feel like that it is one of those seasonal books. Let me see. I feel like it's because how it's set up. He doesn't have it. You don't see it that way. But like it goes April, May, June. He starts in January. There we go. So January, February, March, April, May, June. He goes by month when he's talking to you about his story. You follow him for a complete year and then into the new year. And just a year in the life of. I really enjoy him. I enjoy his books. So that's always sitting on my side table, and I dip in and out of that to revisit it. And then Animal Vegetable Miracle by Barbara Kingsolver. She is definitely one of my favorite authors. She writes fiction. She writes nonfiction. This is one of her nonfiction ones. Again, a seasonal book. I was going to see if it has a... there's a contents page here. Here, excuse me. So you can see she decides to go back to her roots, back home. And it is in Appalachia. Again, why am I not seeing the exact place? I want to say it's Virginia, but when she goes back, they decide to live off the land for a year to try and live off the land as much as possible. They do have to send out for some things. Everybody in the family gets to choose like one thing that you get that doesn't have to follow the rules, like coffee or salt. But everything else comes from either what they are growing or what they can glean from farmers in the area, or just people who are making things in the area. And I enjoy reading about how that changes and the things that you can and can't get if you're trying to live off the land like that. There are recipes in each of them. Her teenage daughter writes articles that are they sound more like high school assignments of what's going on in the environment that has to do with each chapter. Her husband dives in and out. He's a scientist, so he gives you some of here's the backstory of why this is a problem. There are lots of links on there. The book was written in 2007, so a little bit dated there when you're talking about looking up all the links. But again, I enjoy reading it every year, dipping in and out, seeing what's seasonal, what you can plant when, and then looking at their recipes and the fact that they were able to do this for an entire year. And then probably more. I don't know that they then picked up and left, but they definitely were focused on it for a year for her to write the book and show you what that looks like to live off the land. So there's some more of my day books and then seasonal books that always stay on my side table, that if I haven't completely read through them, then I'm trying to get through them, or if I've read through them, I keep them on the side table because I like to dip back in and out of them depending on the day or the season. So throwing those out there, I hope you found something that you might enjoy there. I love Barbara Kingsolver. I would highly recommend any of her books, whether they're fiction or nonfiction, and Michael Perry. I enjoy listening to him. You can listen to him if you Google him online. He's got some stuff that way, but just some enjoyable ones. So enjoy.